I've never been a fan of writers subverting expectations just for the sake of doing it. In Ruby, I found it astoundingly bad when they spent the entirety of Volume 7 building Winter up to be the Winter Maiden, only to have it be Penny last minute. Then, right after, they killed Penny just for it to go back to Winter like it was originally supposed to. That might have been some of the most bafflingly stupid writing ever conceived by the human mind. I never finished the last season of Game of Thrones, but I remember them killing one of Daenerys Targaryen's last remaining dragons for what I can assume was no other reason than shock factor, and ooh, bet you weren't expecting that, huh? The same thing can absolutely be said for the complete opposite side of the spectrum, though. Following a painfully predictable path can be boring as all hell, and shaking things up when you least expect them to tends to make things better than they do worse. The reason I bring all this up is because I've recently just finished reading the light novel series of The Devil is a Part-Timer, and if I can sum up my feelings for it in one word, it would be dissatisfied. For those not in the know of this series, why the hell did you click on this if you don't have some context to what I was talking about, you silly goose? The Devil is a Part-Timer is about Devil King Satan fleeing from the fantasy world of Ente Isla right before he is defeated by Emilia the hero and ends up in modern-day Japan. Because there is no magic on Earth, Satan loses his power and has to get a part-time job at McDonald's to make ends meet. It's a wonderfully refreshing take on the isekai genre, what with it being a reverse isekai and Sadao Mao actually being his own character and not some cringe-ass stand-in for the viewer. The second most important character in the series, next to Mao, is Emilia the hero, aka Emiyusa, as she is just as much the main character of the series as Mao. She comes to Earth to kill the devil, but for a multitude of reasons doesn't, and spoilers, she never does. Now this series constantly points fun at the fact that Emi and Mao's constant bickering and fighting is reminiscent of an old married couple, and the series plays into this very hard. For crying out loud, they even end up having a kid together and go full nuclear family in the series, pretty much. So naturally, one would assume from all these scenes that perhaps this hatred, well, it's more like a one-sided hatred, would blossom into something more. If you thought that, well, I can't blame you because I did as well, but also you'd be wrong. Spoilers for The Devil is a Part-Timer, a series that ended 4 years ago. Mao doesn't get anywhere close to Emi like that. Instead, the series ends with Mao tongue-battling Chiho Sasaki, his high school co-worker. Now let me defend myself real quick and say I in no way think Chiho is a bad character. Is she my favorite? Well, definitely not. As I've gotten older, mainly after I graduated high school, I've lost interest in the typical big-boobed high school girl archetype that's common in anime. I recently rewatched Bokubin, and while Rizu Ogata is a perfectly fine character, she's definitely my least favorite of the girls because their character type is a lot less appealing now that I'm an adult. Chiho Sasaki is introduced as a high school girl with big ol' honkers working at the same Mickey D's as the devil. She's the typical, slightly ditzy girl who developed feelings for the main character just because he was nice to her once or twice. My problem isn't that Chiho likes Mao or her reasons for liking him. My problem with the whole thing is that the series presents options that are leaps and bounds better than Chiho, in my opinion, and also, in my opinion, makes so much more sense in a story context. You can harp all you want about less Stockholm Syndrome all you want, but let's be honest here, Emi's relationship with Mao is so much more interesting and thought out than Chiho. Chiho just starts the series liking Mao, and despite everything that happens to them, it never really develops beyond high school crush. Chiho does her own things and helps the cast in ways beyond fighting, like the archery competition or the summit meeting, but even so, their whole relationship is just, yeah, you're the little devil, but you taught me how to fix the ice cream machine, so now I really want to swap spit with you. Every time Chiho's reasons for liking Mao comes up, it's always some variation of that. Now listen, if the writer wanted Mao and Chiho to end up together from the very beginning, that's perfectly fine. But if you're gonna do that, do not, I repeat, do not present two other options that not only have far better connections with Mao, but also don't tease us by entertaining the idea that these other options even have a chance of happening. As I said before, I have no problems with Chiho, but it's just so boring for her to be the one who ends up with Mao. We have a church inquisitor turned demon general and literal mother of his child who's also the hero and has white hair, the objectively most attractive hair color. The best part about these two is that they never liked Mao from the beginning. In fact, both Susanoo and Emi tried to kill Mao at one point or another. Their trust and eventual affection for Mao, at least for Susanoo, felt earned, and I could honestly see the series ending with one of these two and being satisfied with it. Emi is my favorite character in the series. It's refreshing for a cute anime girl to appear on screen and not want to immediately fuck the protagonist. She went the complete opposite end of the spectrum and tried to stab him when they first met, then proceeded to try a few more times after the fact just for shits and giggles. As stated previously, if the writer wanted to go with Chiho from day one, then he should have stuck with that the whole way through, because by the halfway point of the series, I was convinced the writer was going to pair Mao and Emi together. Am I wrong for thinking this? Everyone constantly comments on how they sound like a married couple, and strangers constantly mistake them for a couple. They have a freaking child together, and I thought that alone was confirmation of their eventual relationship. When Emi is trapped in Epsilon, she pleads for Mao to rescue her. When she's rescued from Epsilon, she confides in Mao, of all people, who should be her worst enemy. They go on multiple dates and family outings with Alice Ramis. I mean, Jesus Christ, they got a freaking kissing illustration in the novel before Chiho did. What the hell did you want me to think? Volume 20 literally has Mao move in with Emi, and the three are the perfect nuclear family. But no, the high school girl with the fat fucking titties is way more interesting than all that. Despite all these events, Emi still takes her time coming around to accepting Mao as one of her allies, rightfully so. The series would be boring as hell if even by the end of Epsilon, she is instantly wanting to play with the devil's fiddle. Don't even get me fucking started on the Valentine's Day scenes. Not only does Emi secretly make Mao chocolates for what she claims was out of duty, even though her intent was for him to never notice they were hers, when she thinks Mao did find out, we get this cute little line right here. Please, by all means, how the hell did you want me to interpret this? Everything, and I mean everything leading to Chiho kissing Mao at the summit led me to believe that it was going to be Emi. Chiho exclaims her love for Mao multiple times, but it never feels like anything beyond a high school girl with gigantic badonkadonks having a crush, and it's hard to take seriously until the very end when I'm told I should start taking it seriously. I had an easier time believing Suzuno had a chance with Mao over Chiho because their relationship felt a lot more real and mature than Chiho's. Don't even get me started on Suzuno. She doesn't get enough credit, to be honest. She's a real homie. Next to Astia, she's probably the most ride or die teammate Mao has. Suzuno is one of the most interesting characters in the whole show. She was the first human from Entei Isla to forgive Mao for his actions. Their scene in Epsilon is probably my favorite scene in the whole series. Even though this is the point where Suzuno starts to develop feelings for Mao, there is no romantic tension in the air, which sounds contradictory, but in reality, the scene is just one friend helping another through their guilt and forgiving them so that the two can start over as real friends and allies. It's quite funny since when Suzuno first appears, Emi thinks she's got the hots for Mao and Chiho treats her like a rival, which actually ends up being true later down the line. I feel so bad for Suzuno, man. I could tell near the end that no matter the outcome, there was no way in hell Suzuno was getting picked. She's like the childhood friend character that clearly vibes with the protagonist more than everyone else, but doesn't get picked because she doesn't have big ol' jiggly slop knocker milk truck tits. You know, the more words that come out of my mouth, the more I think it should have been Suzuno instead of Emi. I think I just accidentally converted myself to a Suzuno enjoyer. Alright, hold on. Let me start over. You know, I've never been a fan of writers subverting. I think it's time to come to the sad realization that I have to accept that, technically speaking, this series was never made for me. The series was made for Japanese people, and thanks to my 2 minutes of investigative journalism, I've come to the conclusion that Chiho seems to be the more popular choice overseas. Despite that though, it always felt like Emi was the clear choice at first, and it kept swapping back and forth as the volumes went on, giving me mixed signals on who the hell it would be. I have no idea what the writer was thinking when making this, and to be honest, I don't care. Once I post this video, I plan on putting this series out of my head and looking for a new light novel series to read. Emi showed so much more promise than Chiho, and Suzuno felt so much more natural. To me, it really feels like we got the ending we did, not because of any character dynamic, but solely because of the type of character Chiho is and the insane size of her over-the-shoulder boulder holders. That's it for my review. Actually, one last thing. I really felt like we were supposed to get a proper conclusion with Rika and Asya. What the hell was up with that? Yeah, Asya did turn her down, but it really seemed like he was starting to feel something and that it might not be as over as he thought. But then the series just ends and all we see of Rika at the end is her dropping Emi off from her car then leaving. Okay, now that's all. Please like and subscribe, and if you'll excuse me, I gotta get back to writing my Belle x Zhu Yuan fanfiction.